I'll give you an illustration I've used before. Come over to the garden with me if you would. I've told y'all before that I hate milk. Y'all, who likes milk in here? Oh, you're weird. Okay. I've hated milk since I was a child. I haven't had a glass of milk in probably 30 years. Okay? I just can't stand the stuff. Okay. Let's say milk. Let's say milk is that issue you have today with loving people, of loving the unlovable. Let's say that's the problem you have right there, and you have tried. You've tried to love them, and you can't. Time and time again, you've had issues in your life that have troubled you and messed you up and destroyed you and knocked you down. And every time you thought you had it whipped, every time you thought you had it beat, you failed again. Because you realized you were operating on what? Your own strength. Okay, I've got this issue that I hate milk. But milk, I'm told, is good for you. Okay. How do we do that? How many of you have watched what's that show with those guys that make them duck calls? Duck what? Duck Dynasty. Okay, how many of you watch Duck Dynasty? How many of you watched Uncle Scythe or Seth or what's his name? Cy? You know, Cy on that show has a Tupperware cup from the Vietnam War, supposedly. I do have a Tupperware cup from the 80s, okay? This is my cookie and milk cup. It's the only one in the house, and it's very precious to me for a good reason. Because the way that God works in overcoming a major dislike or a hardship, and here's some milk, and the reason I like this cup, because there's a line I can go to, and I don't have to go past it. Okay? God comes in as Chips Ahoy cookies. Okay? And if you're going to have cookies and milk, it must be Chips Ahoy, nothing else. All the others are way too greasy, and it must be original Chips Ahoy. This is God. Okay? And Mike has a hard time with that milk. Mike has a hard time with those people. Mike has a hard time getting along with that, what seems to be something unachievable. How do I deal with that? God comes along in my life, and He enters that milk for me. He enters that difficulty for me. He enters that relationship problem ahead of me. And by doing so, you end up with milk. But you know what's neat about this? Oh, you are still here. Excuse me. I just drank some milk. And I didn't taste it. Not at all. That's what God does. God comes into that life and says, I can't do it. And I've tried. No, God, I really have tried. I've tried to be good. I've tried to be what I was supposed to be. And it just didn't work. And God says, I know. I knew you could never do it to start with. That's the reason my son went to a cross. That's the reason the Holy Spirit comes and lives within your life. Is because if you're going to love people the way you're supposed to love people, let me let you know a secret. You can't do it by yourself. You don't have what it takes. And if you're here this morning and you're frustrated, if you're here this morning and you seethe in anger most of the time, it is because you are attempting to have horizontal relationships without the benefactor of a vertical relationship with God. And that's